Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel where we bring you the most fascinating stories of innovation and success. Stories that open your mind, teach you powerful lessons, and help you learn English naturally. Today, I am going to tell you a story that did not begin in a big corporate office. It did not begin with a wealthy businessman or a genius inventor in a white lab coat. It began with a man who loved to run. A man who had a crazy idea, a tiny budget, and a deep, burning passion. And it began with another man, a coach, who poured rubber into his wife's waffle iron to make a better shoe. Together, these two men built a brand that would conquer the world. A brand whose simple logo, a curved check mark called the swoosh, is recognized in every corner of the globe. A brand that represents victory, determination, and the athlete in all of us. That brand is Nike. How did a company that started in the trunk of a car become the most powerful sportswear empire in history? How did a partnership between a quiet accountant and a grumpy coach change the way the entire world thinks about athletic shoes? This is a story about risk, failure, creativity, and the insane courage it takes to chase a dream. It is the story of Just Do It. And as always, this story is a wonderful way to improve your English. You will learn vocabulary about business, entrepreneurship, and sports. Words like startup, partnership, innovation, endorsement, and brand. You will hear how two ordinary men did something extraordinary. So, get comfortable, and let's begin from the very start. The story of Nike begins with a skinny, quiet boy named Phil Knight. Phil was born in 1938 in Portland, Oregon, a city surrounded by green forests and misty mountains in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. His father was a lawyer and later a newspaper publisher. The family was comfortable, but Phil was not interested in a simple, easy life. From a young age, he fell in love with running. Running was not a popular sport in America in the 1950s. There were no fancy running shoes, no colorful tracksuits, no big marathons with thousands of people. If you ran on the streets, people would stop and stare. They might even laugh. But Phil did not care. He loved the feeling of his heart pounding, his lungs burning, the rhythm of his feet hitting the ground. He was not the fastest or the most naturally talented runner. But he was determined. He ran on the track team at the University of Oregon, a respectable but not outstanding athlete. His coach was a man named Bill Bowerman. Bill Bowerman was a legend. He was a tough, demanding man with a crew cut and a stern face. He had been a decorated soldier in World War II. As a coach, he pushed his runners to their absolute limits. He studied every detail of the sport, the mechanics of the leg, the way the foot struck the ground, the importance of a shoe that was light and fast. He was never satisfied with the heavy, clumsy running shoes that were available at the time. He believed that a shoe could be made better. American shoes were just copies of German shoes. And that bothered him. He would tinker with shoes, taking them apart and trying to rebuild them lighter and stronger. He would bring his crazy prototypes to practice, and the runners, including Phil Knight, would test them. Phil Knight graduated from the University of Oregon and then went on to get an MBA, a master's degree in business administration, at Stanford University. It was there, in a small business class, that the big bang of Nike happened. The professor gave the students an assignment: come up with a business idea, a new company. Phil, the quiet runner, wrote a paper. His idea was simple but radical. Japanese cameras had entered the American market and beaten the big German camera companies. Why couldn't Japanese running shoes do the same to the dominant German brands like Adidas and Puma? He believed that Japanese shoes, with their low cost of labor, could be sold in America for much cheaper and still be of high quality. The professor read the paper and gave Phil a mediocre grade. The idea was not realistic, he said. It would never work. But the seed was planted in Phil's mind, and it would not die. In 1962, after finishing business school, Phil Knight did something that all his friends thought was insane. He did not take a steady job in a big corporation. Instead, he decided to travel the world. And he made a secret, bold plan. He would go to Japan and try to meet with shoe manufacturers. He wanted to see if he could become their American distributor. He arrived in Japan, a young, nervous man with little money and a big dream. He visited the city of Kobe, known for its shoe industry. He found a company called Onitsuka Tiger, which made a popular running shoe in Japan. Phil walked into their office, and he started to talk. He had prepared a story. The executives asked him what company he represented. Phil thought fast. He had no real company. But he remembered the blue ribbons that he had won at track meets. He said, "I represent Blue Ribbon Sports." The name sounded impressive. The Japanese executives believed him. They agreed to send him samples. Phil Knight, a kid with no money and no real company, had just secured the exclusive rights to distribute Onitsuka Tiger shoes in the western United States. He shipped the samples back to Oregon. When the shoes arrived, he immediately sent a pair to his old coach, Bill Bowerman. He hoped that Bowerman would be impressed. He waited anxiously. And then a call came. Not only was Bowerman impressed, but he wanted in. He wanted to be a partner in this crazy venture. The coach saw the potential. He also saw the shoes and immediately started thinking about how to make them better. In 1964, Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman officially founded Blue Ribbon Sports. They shook hands and each put in $500. That was it. A handshake partnership, $1,000 and a dream. The early days were incredibly difficult. Phil was still working as an accountant to pay his bills. He sold the shoes out of the trunk of his green Plymouth Valiant car. He would drive to high school track meets and college meets all over the Pacific Northwest. He would open the trunk, lay out the shoes, and talk to runners, coaches, and anyone who would listen. He was not just a salesman. He was a believer. He loved these shoes. He believed they were better than the heavy, overpriced German shoes. He talked about the lightweight design and the Japanese craftsmanship. Many people said no. Many meets, he sold nothing. But slowly, a small, loyal group of runners started to buy them. They came back and said, "These shoes are amazing." The word spread through the underground running community. But the true genius behind the product was Bill Bowerman. The old coach was a mad scientist of footwear. In his kitchen, he had a workshop. He would rip apart the Onitsuka Tiger shoes, stitch them back together, add cushioning, and remove weight. His philosophy was simple. A runner should not be carrying an extra ounce of weight on their foot. He created shoes that his athletes called Bowerman Specials. One legendary Sunday morning in 1971, Bowerman was staring at the kitchen table, trying to figure out how to make a shoe sole lighter and with better grip. He looked over at his wife's waffle iron. An idea sparked. He rushed over, poured liquid rubber into the waffle iron, and slammed it shut. The kitchen filled with a terrible burning smell. His wife, Barbara, came in and was furious. But when Bowerman opened the iron, he had created a new kind of sole. A sole with a grid of small, square nubs, just like a waffle. It was flexible, lightweight, and gave incredible traction. He had just invented the waffle sole. It was a breakthrough. The waffle trainer, when it was released, became a massive hit. This was innovation born in a kitchen, not a laboratory. As Blue Ribbon Sports grew, the relationship with Onitsuka Tiger became strained. The Japanese company wanted to sell directly to the American market themselves. They tried to end the partnership with Phil Knight. Phil suddenly faced a nightmare. He was about to lose the product that his whole business was built on. But Phil had seen this coming. He had been preparing. He decided to do something incredibly risky. He would start his own brand. He would manufacture his own shoes, with his own logo, his own name. Phil and his small team needed a name. They tossed around ideas. One team member suggested Dimension 6. Phil's first choice was Falcon, but it did not feel right. Then another team member, Jeff Johnson, woke up one morning and said a name had come to him in a dream. He had dreamed of Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. She was a winged goddess, flying over the battlefields, giving warriors the strength to win. Phil Knight was not thrilled at first. He thought it was too strange, too mythological. But they were running out of time. The shoeboxes had to be printed. So, they went with Nike. Now they needed a logo. Phil went to a graphic design student at Portland State University named Carolyn Davidson. He told her he needed a logo that represented motion, speed, and victory. She was a young, shy student. He paid her $2 an hour for her work. Carolyn drew several designs. None of them were perfect. Finally, she presented a simple, curved checkmark shape. Phil looked at it. He was not in love. He said, "I don't love it, but it will grow on me." And he was right. The swoosh, as it came to be known, became one of the most recognizable symbols on Earth. Years later, when the company was worth billions, Phil gave Carolyn a significant amount of stock as a thank you. The little logo that she designed for $35 became a piece of history. In 1972, the first Nike-branded shoes were sold at the U.S. Olympic track and field trials. The shoes were covered with the new swoosh logo, and the athletes loved them. But the big battle was yet to come. The king of the sportswear world was Adidas, a German giant. Nike was a tiny, scrappy upstart. But Phil Knight and his team had a secret weapon. They were athletes themselves. They understood what runners wanted because they were runners. They did not see their job as selling shoes. They saw it as serving athletes. Nike grew fast. But in 1977, the company faced a devastating crisis. The U.S. government accused Nike of owing millions of dollars in unpaid customs duties. They said the company was importing shoes without paying the correct taxes. The government slapped Nike with a bill for $25 million. For a young, still struggling company, this was a death blow. The legal battle dragged on. Phil Knight was under tremendous stress. He could not sleep. He faced the real possibility that his company would be destroyed. But Nike fought back. They negotiated. And they continued to innovate. In 1979, they introduced the Nike Air technology, a cushioning system that used pressurized gas inside the sole to provide incredible shock absorption. It was a huge leap forward. The tailwind shoe with air technology was a smash hit. The company's sales soared. And then came the moment that would change everything. The moment that would turn a shoe company into a global cultural phenomenon. In 1984, Nike signed a young, charismatic, and astonishingly talented rookie basketball player named Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had just been drafted by the Chicago Bulls. He was fresh out of college. He had never played a professional game. But Nike saw something special. They offered him a 5-year deal worth $2.5 million, which was a fortune for a rookie at the time. There was one problem. Michael Jordan did not want to sign with Nike. He preferred Adidas. He had worn Converse in college. He did not think of Nike as a cool basketball brand. His agent, David Falk, convinced him to just go and hear their pitch. Nike put on a presentation. They showed Michael a highlight reel of his college career. They told him he would have his own shoe line. They would call it Air Jordan. Michael listened. He was intrigued. He still was not sure. But his father, James Jordan, told him, "You have to give them a chance. This is a good deal." So Michael signed the contract. The Air Jordan 1 was a beautiful, bold shoe. It was black and red, and the NBA immediately banned it. The league had a strict uniform policy, and the shoe did not match the white shoes that the rest of the Bulls wore. Nike had a choice. They could change the shoe to match the rules, or they could turn the ban into marketing gold. They chose the latter. They paid the $5,000 fine for every game Michael wore the shoes. And they created a commercial that said, "The NBA banned them. But you can't ban greatness." The effect was like an electric shock through youth culture. Every kid in America had to have a pair of Air Jordans. The shoe was not just for playing basketball. It became a fashion statement, a symbol of rebellion and coolness. The Air Jordan line exploded. It made Michael Jordan a billionaire and Nike the most dominant force in basketball. The partnership between Jordan and Nike is perhaps the most successful athlete endorsement in the history of business. It proved that a brand could be more than just a product. It could be a story, an identity, a feeling. In 1988, Nike launched a new advertising campaign with just 3 words. Those 3 words would become one of the most famous slogans in the world. Just do it. The story behind the slogan is chilling. The advertising executive, Dan Whedon, was inspired by the last words of a convicted murderer named Gary Gilmore, who, before his execution, said, "Let's do it." Whedon changed it to "Just do it." It was a phrase that captured the spirit of the athlete, the spirit of Nike. It was not about fancy equipment. It was about the decision to act, to wake up early, to run the extra mile, to push through the pain. Just do it spoke to everyone, not just professional athletes, but the ordinary person trying to find the motivation to exercise. The campaign was a massive success and cemented Nike's place not just in sport, but in the very language of inspiration. Nike continued to sign the biggest names in sports: Tiger Woods in golf, Serena Williams in tennis, Cristiano Ronaldo in football. They built monuments to these athletes, telling their stories of struggle and triumph. Nike was no longer selling shoes. They were selling the idea that inside every person is an athlete waiting to be born. But the journey was not without scandal. In the 1990s, reports emerged about the terrible conditions in the factories where Nike shoes were made. Children working long hours. Workers being paid just pennies. Being exposed to dangerous chemicals. The public was outraged. Activists protested outside Nike stores. The brand was suddenly seen as a symbol of exploitation. At first, Nike denied and defended. But the pressure grew too strong. Phil Knight, the stoic leader, had to face the music. He gave a speech admitting that Nike had failed. He said, "The Nike product has become synonymous with slave wages, forced overtime, and arbitrary abuse." It was a painful moment. But Nike did not collapse. They took a hard look at their supply chain. They became one of the first major companies to publish a list of all their factories. They raised the minimum age for workers. They improved safety standards. They became a leader in corporate responsibility. The crisis taught the company a vital lesson. A great brand must also be a good citizen. Phil Knight, the quiet accountant who sold shoes from the trunk of his car, had built an empire. He stepped down as CEO in 2004, but remained chairman. In 2016, he wrote a memoir called Shoe Dog, which detailed the wild, messy, beautiful journey of building Nike. In the book, he wrote about the pain, the risk, the betrayals, and the incredible team of people who gave their lives to this crazy company. He revealed that in the early days, he was so stressed that he would often vomit before big meetings. Today, Nike is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Its swoosh is painted on the jerseys of the world's greatest athletes. Its shoes are worn by presidents and movie stars and children playing in dusty streets. The company that started with a handshake and a waffle iron has become a force that shapes global culture. Now, what can we learn from the incredible journey of Nike and its founders? First, find a problem and solve it. Bill Bowerman was not trying to become a millionaire. He was just a coach trying to make a shoe that was lighter for his runners. He saw a problem and tinkered with a solution. The waffle sole was born from that curiosity. Great businesses often start by solving a small, specific problem. What problems do you see around you? Your solution could be the start of something huge. Second, embrace the power of a crazy idea. Phil Knight's business school professor told him his idea would not work. The establishment laughed at him. But he had a vision. He believed that Japanese shoes could beat the Germans. He was willing to take a huge risk and travel to Japan with nothing but hope. You will encounter people who doubt your dreams. Let their doubt fuel your determination. Third, partnerships are everything. Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman were a perfect team. Phil was the businessman. Bowerman was the inventor. They trusted each other. Their partnership was built on a handshake. A great partnership balances skills and shares a common mission. Find your Bowerman. Fourth, failure is part of the story. The government almost destroyed Nike with the customs case. The Air Jordan shoe was banned by the NBA. The sweatshop scandal nearly broke the brand's reputation. But each time, Nike faced the crisis, adapted, and came back stronger. You will fail. You will be criticized. Do not hide from it. Learn from it. Fifth, a brand is a story, not a product. The swoosh is not just a logo. Just do it is not just a slogan. They represent a deep human desire to overcome, to fight, to win. Nike sells stories of heroes. What story are you telling with your life and your work? Make it a story worth telling. And finally, just do it. That simple phrase is the ultimate lesson. Phil Knight did not wait until he was ready. He did not wait until he had enough money or all the answers. He just started. He took the first step. He got on that plane to Japan. And that first step led to an empire. Whatever your dream is, stop overthinking it. Take the first messy, imperfect step. Start now. Just do it. Phil Knight once wrote, "The cowards never started and the weak died along the way." That leaves us, ladies and gentlemen. Us. He was talking about the band of misfits who built Nike. You are on a journey to learn English. It can be hard. It can feel like a long, lonely run. But you are one of the brave ones who started. You are still on the road. And that is something to be proud of. Thank you for listening to this story. If it inspired you, if it made you want to chase your own crazy idea, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who has an entrepreneurial spirit. And let me know in the comments, what does "just do it" mean to you? I read every comment. Until next time, keep running your race, keep innovating, and never forget that greatness often begins with a waffle iron in a kitchen. Bye for now.